Hello, Justine Dandria here with Bible Journaling Ministries creative team, and today we're using the printables from Genesis 3:24, and we're going to be making a tag book. So if you're ready, let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's review some of the supplies we'll be using. I have some ink pads here with my makeup sponge. I'm going to be using a stencil along with some cardstock. Excuse me. I have a scrap piece of the cardstock that I had lying around. The manila folder that you can cut into tags, or I purchased tags that already have the hole in it, and I'm just going to go ahead and use about 7 of those. And then Posca marker or a black art marker. I was going to say hot glue. You don't want hot glue. Tape runner or wet glue. And today I'm using a corner rounder to round some of the edges of my cardstock. A binder ring that you can get at, I think, anywhere really, office supply and then some ribbon. As I say, office supply or Walmart. Walmart has everything, right? And then we're going to go ahead and just get started on coloring. So I've put this as quick coloring because you guys have seen us color many times before, and I just thought, you might want to see it in fast forward mode. And when I'm coloring, I just like to, especially trees or bushes, I like to make circles when I'm coloring, kind of just to give it a little bit of texture. And I'm just using the browns and the greens. So here I'm coloring the large images. And then I realized I didn't want to use the large images in card, um, the tag book. So I'm going to have to go back and color the smaller images, but that's okay. So the large images are the ones that I would normally use in the interleave book or the Inspiration Bible, which has the large pages that you can use the larger images. Or I do notice that a lot of people like to start with notebooks. You can also start with a mixed media book. There is no reason why you can't. And I really think it's a great idea because you can write the verse and then do your artwork. So that's kind of like a double or triple way. You're reading, you're writing, and then you're doing the artwork. So that's a great way to do your creative worship. I actually encourage that, especially those who don't want to write over their Bible pages or decorate over their Bible pages. So this is the smaller version here that I'll be using, and I've colored them, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut some out while I'm here with you. I'm not cutting them right up to the line. I am leaving a little bit of I forget what they call it. I forgot what they call it. Just a border, like a white border around each one of them. And as always, you can print these on printer paper and have your Cricut or your Silhouette cut them out. Totally up to you. Why is my finger sticking out like that? That's funny. I have no idea. All right, these left-handed people, I don't know. I can't believe I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but none of my kids, I have 4 children and none of them are left-handed. And even my grandchildren aren't. Crazy. I thought for sure I would have at least one child that was left-handed. My dad was left-handed, so I don't know, but these are things I think about when cutting out. And this, along with, thinking about my dad and the memories and then along with, of course, thinking about the verse, going back to the beginning when um, taking the time to think about this single verse and just meditate on that. I know some people get nervous cutting, but I do enjoy it. It does relax me. So I cut all my images out, and this is what it looks like if you were to use like the manila folder. And then these are the cards that I'm going to use with the ring there. And like I said, you would punch a hole in the manila folder if you want. And these are like a 7 by 3.5 that I'm using. So if you want to cut even cardstock, you can do this on 7 by 3.5. And I'm just going to go ahead and put my pencils away. And I was going to say something. Oh, I am using this book because a comprehensive or the complete guide to the Bible. Um, I just wanted to dive just a little bit deeper, and that's how you do it when you're Bible journaling. If you're not sure or you just want to go a little bit deeper, go to reference books or go onto references on the internet that will help you dive a little bit deeper into that verse, into that scripture, um, into that book. Uh, so here I'm just showing you there's large ones I'm going to use, and then there's smaller ones. If you're a little intimidated and you just get overwhelmed by the larger ones, you can go ahead and use a smaller one. There is no reason why you cannot do that. And this is I had some extra cardstock hanging around. So I'm going to use that. And here I am measuring. So it's about a 3.5 by 7 um, tag that I'm using. And I'm going to cut my cardstock a little bit shorter. I think I'm going to do like a 3 by 6 piece. That kind of leaves like a little bit of a frame around the cardstock when you place it on the tag. And so I'm going to get about 3 pieces of 3 by 6, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the extra piece that I have. You'll see here, I'm going to cut it. And this is a cutting board. It's a cutting and scoring board that I got from We Are Crafters, I think it is. Or We Are. I love this because it's just easy to use and you can score and cut both at the same time. So I'm keeping all my cuts. Very simple here. If you don't have a cutting board, of course you can use scissors. You can measure it out with a ruler. And I've put my images kind of like in order. So I put it for the way kind of like the story goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and punch out the larger pieces. I'm gonna punch the corners to make them rounded. These you could get this at any craft supply store or any scrapbooking store, something like that. They come in different sizes, and I'm just doing a nice simple corner rounding here. All right. Now this is a double-sided cardstock, so I'm going to go and I'm going to kind of flip-flop the pages as I go through making it. So I'm going to use the tape runner at this time. I just think when I'm doing something like this, as far as making it a background, I'm okay with using a tape runner. They're fairly easy to use. The only thing I don't like about it is once you put it down, you have to make sure it's right in sorry, in the place you want it to be, because you can't pull it up as easy as if you were using wet glue, because wet glue gives you a few seconds to be able to lift up the paper. Now you can go ahead and put something on the back there, or you can leave it blank so that you can write notes. And that's what I'm going to choose to do so that I can have some prayer time and maybe write prayers down, or just thoughts as I continue studying and just being in the Word, and maybe listening to some worship music and just some comments. Maybe I feel that God is giving me, or thoughts. So my whole point of that was that I'm going to go ahead and leave it blank on the back. So I'm using, let's see how many cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, how appropriate. 7 cards. And again, I've put these in order. I'm using the lion and Adam and Eve on the front page, the serpent and Eve on the second page, the tree and Adam and Eve eating behind the bush, and then them both eating. I think that's in. And then the sin. All right, so I've cut out the verse, and I'm going to make that for as my first page. I am going to decide what I want for my first page, and I've decided to take the smaller piece of paper and give it a rip because I like to rip papers. I'm just ripping the one edge and keeping the other 3 sides flat. And then I'm just going to tape run it on, glue it on, keeping it to the left and on the side. And I haven't used stencils in a long time, so I'm going to grab a stencil and some inks. And this stencil that I'm grabbing kind of reminds me a little bit of Snake, so I thought that was kind of appropriate. Um, and I'm going to go ahead and do blue on the edges because it matches my paper. So what I do is I just like to color coordinate as I'm going through and keep it, simple but close. And you can make the edges, you can distress the edges as much as or as little as you want. I like to take the color and add it into the blank space or to kind of just add texture to the card. I don't really think much about it. I just kind of let it do its own thing. And then I'm going to grab some green and with the stencil. And you can make your booklet, your tag booklet, as fancy or as simple as you want. If you're new to making tag books, you might want to just keep it a little bit more simple. As we all know, the most important thing is the time that we're spending focusing on the verse. When I'm stenciling, I like to move the stencil around and use different positions. And I don't do the whole stencil part of it. Like I'll just ink part of the stencil. And I would do like 3 or 5. Like I would keep it um, in odd numbers if you're going to put spots on. What I mean by spots is markings, each section of the markings. I'm going to put a little bit of blue on my verse that I cut out, or not blue, I'm sorry, green, to give that a little bit of color. And you can distress it a little bit by just crinkling it up and then lightly going over the crinkles, and it kind of gives a distressed look to the paper itself. And my glue is not working, so let me take off my tip. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue that on. So I was looking at the book that I showed you, whether you look at a book or whatever you're looking at, and you're thinking about like highlights of each part of that verse. So, like my first thing that I'm thinking of is all we had is one rule. All Eve had was one rule to follow, Adam and Eve, and that's all. And we blew it, right? So I'm going to put one rule on here. I'm going to hand letter it. If you're uncomfortable about hand lettering, you can always go ahead and type up your wording, cut it out, and then just glue it on. Keeping blank space on a page or a card or a tag helps you to be able to write different things. So I wrote there pray because I'm gonna try to remind myself that I want to pray and go ahead and do that at another time. So I'm just using basic lettering. Sorry you couldn't see it because I'm tilted here. All right, so we got the first page. So my second page is gonna be simple, but I am gonna write on here um, uh, part of the verse, a verse. I'm gonna grab my Posca, one of my Posca paint pens. If you haven't used those before, I use the fine tip pens that you can get at Amazon. They usually have pretty good pricing there. So I'm gonna grab my green and I'm gonna write, you may freely eat the fruit of every tree in the garden except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I knew it was called the tree of knowledge, but I don't remember it being of good and evil also. So that's interesting. So I'm just hand lettering in my own writing. Sometimes a Posca pen you have to kind of restart it. It gets a little dried out, but so you may freely eat the fruit of every tree in the garden except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that's Adam and Eve sitting there, and God is telling them, "Go eat." Oh, look at you got my crazy hair in there. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of an outlining. I use the full sheet. Don't forget to date too. Like if you do the tags at different times and you just want to spend your time doing it, make sure you date them. Or if you just do the whole book at one time, go ahead and date that. Okay, I'm going to grab my next one. I'm using the shorter piece and I'm going to go ahead and rip it. I'm going to put that on the right side because I usually do everything on the left. So put that on, and then I'm going to use Eve reaching up for the apple and the serpent. You can go ahead and edge these, distress the edges if you want to. I didn't do that. Just some ideas so that you can, do something simple. You could do this with the kids too. That would be a really good idea. Or get a group of ladies together. Just going to grab another extra little piece because I just thought it needed a little something. So I'm going to put that there. So there's 1 and 2. 3 is them eating it together, I believe. Yes, Adam and Eve munching on apples. Poor Adam is sad because she convinces him to eat the apple. How rude. All right. Now, this one, I didn't have a piece of paper. So, what I'm going to do is coordinate with the stencil that I used in the beginning. And I'm just going to use my green and my red. I'm going to use green and then I'm going to add a red to it because I didn't have red in the beginning. So if you see, I'm just placing the stencil in different directions and just lightly going and then heavy and, just all pressures, different pressures. And then I'm going to use the other side. This type of stencil is really cool because it has three textures on it. And I want to say this is probably a Tim Holtz stencil. And like I said, these patterns that I'm using remind me of a snake skin. So, all right. So down goes the tree with the snake in it. And then Adam and Eve munching on the apples behind the bush. And then our next card is the sin. We're going to put Adam up top and then Eve where they feel they need to cover themselves because of their sin. And then we have, just reviewing it. I like to review. Then we have the final one. And I think I'm going to go ahead and rip that again. And it'll be Adam and Eve fully clothed, walking out of the garden. And then the angel where God says the cherubim um, he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, which are angels, and flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So when I was placing that on there, I was also thinking of how we were given the Holy Spirit um, to help us with wisdom and the truth, and how the sword of the Spirit helps protect us. So I'm going to go through and add some of my notes. There you see I have my books. I just wanted to show you some of this, how I do this. So the first one I had one rule. That's all we had was one rule. The second one I did that little bit of a verse. And then I think I put this out of order. Excuse me. This one is she is convinced, and then she convinces him. Yeah, I think I have this out of order. And then the single act of disobedience. I put disobedience on the side. Changes life on earth. So these are just kind of focus notes, more or less. On the back of the cards is where I'll be writing more of my detailed personal notes. And I just kind of highlight the first letter of each of those words. Simple, right? Let's see. I think I decide to write changes life on earth. Because that one act of disobedience changes the whole way God had planned life to be. And then we have sin, the original sin. You must leave the garden, he tells them. So I hope that you'll give this a try. I hope that you will not be afraid, and make sure you let us know um, if you do it or not. We love to hear. So this last one is God working to correct the damage, intimate relationship with God. So that meaning to me is God's as of now, is working to correct the damage that was done so long ago. And he does this by having an intimate relationship with us. So, all right. So make sure you maybe take some time to do this with your children or your grandchildren or a neighbor. Spend some time with someone you love or someone you just care about or want to just spread the word. Remember to, if you'd like to subscribe so that you can get notifications of when a new, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can get notifications when they come out, new videos come out. Um, Here is the ring that I put on. And then again, I just grabbed some ribbon to put on there. You don't have to put the ribbon on. All right. So make sure if you're not part of Momentum, go check it out at BibleJournalingMinistries.com. You'll be amazed at how much stuff is there to help you get started. And of course, the free 10-day Bible journaling course that Tracy has available for us. There we go. Just a quick flip through just to show you. So I hope that you have a blessed day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.